up, reader family? Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm bringing you another books I've read not so recently, the series on my channel where I talk about books that I've read not so recently, because I'm a dysfunctional human who can't keep up with sharing my thoughts on books. It's been a minute since I've posted a video, but it feels good to be back. Feels so good. I really feel it. Ow. And I finally have decided on an upload schedule. I'm bringing you new videos every Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 2 p.m. CST. I know that's very specific, but it's time I get specific and stick to a schedule. I'm aiming towards consistency here. I just wanted to update y'all on my schedule before we got into the video, but now let's get into it. Let's talk about some books I've read not so recently. First up here, I read Don't Read the Comments. I feel like I've talked about this book nonstop lately, and to that I say, I'm sorry, not sorry. I'm not apologizing for loving a book. When you love a book with all you've got, what do? You shout that love out the windows and disturb all your neighbors. In this book, we follow Divya, who is a pro gamer, and Aaron, who is interested in becoming a video game writer. The two end up meeting as their worlds end up being flipped on their heads. Imagine if the world had a head. Now that'd be scary. Divya begins being harassed online, and Aaron finds himself cheated out of an opportunity that he was relying on. Together, they help each other through these roller coasters that they found themselves on and work to reach the end. Me trying to think about things that I haven't already said about this book. It had every beat that I love in a story. And when it hit every beat, it hit differently. It's a story that's fully loaded with everything that I love in a book, a fully loaded book potato. We've got deep character exploration, storylines that tie together with a nice bow, well-executed ideas, and a romance of sorts that developed that I didn't hate for once. Me actually not dying of cringe when a romance is involved? Is that what we call character growth? No, we call that a well-written romance element. If I were to critique one thing about this book, one little thing, itty bitty, I just wanted Divya to be less of like, I'm only a gamer for money, and more like, I'm passionate about gaming, but I also make money off of it, and that's great. But to each their own. Get that dollar, Divya. Next up, I read Chain of Gold, and this is the first book in the Last Hours trilogy, another Shadowhunter spin-off. It takes place in London in the 1800s, I believe. I'm pretty sure that's right, like late 1800s. And we follow a group of Shadowhunters who what? Find themselves on another adventure? No way! That can't be what happens. It's exactly what happens. Wow. That description deserves the Summary of the Year award. Like, hand it over. Give me that trophy. It's what I deserve. I'd like to thank Magnus Bane and Magnus Bane alone. Yes, thank you and good night. Mic drop. Bye. I was planning to do a full video review on this book, but guess who dropped the ball? Me. I dropped the ball. I guess that just means I'm gonna have to reread it in order to make a video review. Am I using this as an opportunity to reread this glorious book? Perhaps. I'm at the point now where I go into most of Cassandra Clare's books knowing that I'll end up enjoying them. Despite everyone in the book world having the time of their lives roasting her books, I'm over here still reading them, enjoying the heck out of them. I mean, I know that a lot of people still enjoy them, but dang, these books still get roasted like crazy. I will say that it's not my favorite first book in a Shadowhunter series. That crown goes to Lady Midnight, but it was still solid. There's just this nice familiar quality with these books, and the fact that I already know the world and I'm familiar with a lot of the characters going in, so it doesn't feel like a chore to read. You know how sometimes when you go into a new fantasy book and it's just a lot of work, you're entering a new world with a new magic system and all these different characters that you've got to get used to? It's like a literal first date sometimes. But because I know so much of the history of this series, these books end up always being such a fun experience for me. My favorite somewhat new character is Jesse Blackthorne, and not because we share the same name, I promise, but he's such an interesting character for reasons that I feel like I'm not allowed to say because it could be spoilery and like I don't want to spoil you. And I feel like Cassandra Clare just kind of really teased his presence in this book, and I feel like hopefully we'll be getting more from him in the next book. If we don't, then I'm suing. Not really. Not gonna do that, but I'll be upset. I'll take you to court in my mind. My only complaint about the book is that you kind of have to read some of the novellas to really fully prepare yourself for the book. Like, you'll be fine without them, but I feel like the novellas really shape out the characters and give them a little bit more depth. You know more backstory on them, and like, I didn't read the novellas, so I was kind of annoyed at that fact. That whole novellas thing is honestly kind of one of my biggest pet peeves, but am I gonna still keep reading this series? Heck to the yes. Nothing's gonna stop me. Next, I read The Magical Language of Others, which, can I just say, this cover is beautiful because it's beautiful. This is a nonfiction book, a memoir with a focus on a mother-daughter relationship. We follow the author E.J. Ko, which I believe it's Eunji. Yeah, Eunji. Her and her family moved from South Korea to America, and then her dad's like, oh, I got a job offer in South Korea. So her mom and her dad end up moving back to South Korea, leaving her and her brother in America. And we see how that distance between them really affects the dynamic within the family. Eunji and her brother are really young when her parents move back to South Korea, and so they kind of are going through these really defining moments in their lives, and their parents are missing out on all of that. It's told both in a narrative style, and then we also have all these letters that are translated from Korean to English that are from her mom. There's quite a bit of triggering content to note with this one. There's eating disorder, self-harm, and I'd say suicidal thoughts as well. I found the exploration of this family's struggles to be really raw and open and honest. At times I felt like I was reading somebody's diary, and I was waiting for someone to come smack me upside the head and rip the diary out of my hands. But because I'm a nosy person, I kept my eyeballs glued to the page and kept reading. We see how distance really caused a hiccup in their relationship, and it's kind of frustrating being on the outside looking in because you see all these different ways in which they could like fix the situation and make things better, but like you can't just hop into the book and be like, hello, let's fix this. Like, no, you just gotta read the pain. I honestly feel like this book is really telling in how much effort relationships take in order for them to thrive. They can't be one-sided. Everybody involved has to be putting in effort. Next, I read Wayward Sun, which is the sequel to Carry On, and it follows Simon and Baz on a new adventure full of angsty angst and foolish fools. We see them as they go through the aftermath of the first book and how it's affected their current state of mind. We follow them on a road trip in America, which ends up being a trouble trip because every which way they turn, they find themselves in trouble. It wouldn't be a fun road trip if trouble wasn't involved, right? Right. When everyone is disappointed in a book and you're one of the only people who enjoyed it, does that mean that I'm not like other girls trope? I'll take it. This book was honestly full of hashtag fun times. It drove in the thrill of adventure and kept me on my toes with excitement. I will say that I was a bit underwhelmed by how short it is. There's no reason for Carry On to be this big and for the second book to be half its size. Like, excuse me, I ordered a medium, not a small. It's definitely a book that's used to kind of lead you into the third book. We have things that are set up in here that are definitely going to be resolved in the last book. And excuse me, but that cliffhanger? How dare you insult me like that? I liked the fact that it was a mix of something familiar and something not familiar. It mixes in the road trip, which is the familiar part, and then adds a bit of sprinkle of magic throughout it, which is clearly something that I don't have access to IRL. If only. I wish I could be flinging a wand left and riding a dragon as if it was just a horse. There were a few frustrating relationship things that go down in the book, but I was kind of happy at the fact that not everything was sunshine and rainbows, and the conflict that occurred felt organic. It felt natural to the situation, and not like it was flung in there to add tension for the sake of it. On top of all of that, I loved the writing style, how it feels like you're reading this happy contemporary, and yet you've got fantasy elements galore. Now, I do want to say that I know that Rainbow Rowell has been under fire recently, so I don't know if I'll be reading the last book in the trilogy, but I still wanted to share my thoughts. Finally, we have Defy Me and Imagine Me, Book 5 and Book 6 in the Shatter Me series. This story originally started out about this girl named Juliet who has the ability to shock people with her touch. She has a lethal touch, but over time it shifts into a completely different narrative, and that's all I'll say. I'm about to hit the negativity pinata, but I didn't end up loving either of these. I did say in a reading vlog that I ended up liking this, but the more that I sat on both of these books, figuratively sat on them and processed them, I realized that they weren't my cup of tea. Or rather, not my cup of coffee, because let's be real, I'm not much of a tea guy. Unless it's bubble tea, then that's a whole other situation. I will say that I think I liked Imagine Me more than Defy Me. I think, methinks, I don't know, but overall, I was just kind of underwhelmed by both of them. I just didn't love the extension on the series. Like, I didn't need it. If we're being real here, I didn't need this extension because it just didn't really add anything in my opinion. Like, it added things, but it didn't add things that I felt like enhanced the series. Like, it didn't really take it in a direction that I liked. In fact, I was very uncomfortable by some things that go down in this one. The ending was really weird at times, and I was also just very confused as to how we had gotten to a certain place. I was like, how did we end up here? Like, did we take a wrong turn? I think we need to back it up here. Also, my friends, one of my biggest pet peeves, like big old pet peeves, occurred in the extension of this series. And that's when we have the original trilogy. We've tied it up nicely in a bow. And then we're like, hey, let's make that trilogy into a 6-book series. And instead of bringing in a new conflict, we just untie the bow from the original trilogy. Like, can we stop doing that? So many series have done that recently, and I'm just upset about it. I'm really not a fan of that. I say all these negative things, but overall, this is just such a fun series. I love Tahereh Mafi's writing style. It always is a win for me. Is it over the top? Heck yes. Do I like over the top writing? Heck yes. Are they worth reading for Kenji alone? Yes, they are. If you're gonna read them for any reason, let that reason be Kenji. He is the best side character writer ever. Well, one of the best. I don't know if he's the best ever, but he's up there. Alright friends, those are some books that I've read not so recently. You guys should let me know down below in the comments if you have read any of these books and what your thoughts are on them, or just let me know down below in the comments a book that you've read recently and that you ended up really enjoying. Again, my new upload schedule is Monday, Wednesday, Friday. If you like this video, be sure to go and hit that like button. If you want to see more bookish content from me, be sure to go and hit subscribe or go and hit that bell icon and you'll be notified every time I post new videos. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope your day is bright, that tomorrow is brighter. Keep reading what your heart desires, and I will see you soon with a new video. Bye.